If you've milled out all of your mahogany pieces or Doug fir pieces, you'll probably want to start with your keel. Now this is this piece right here. Runs along the bottom of the boat on the center line. It's 1.25 inches by 7/8, so it lays flat 1.25 inches, and you'll have cut on the top of your boat, or on the bottom, which is the top right now since it's upside down, made a flat across your center line that's that 1.25 inches wide out from the center line, and that's what that keel will rest on. It is pretty important to the probably first 6 to 8 inches of that. You'll want to give a very gradual flat slope, and that is because you're going to put a piece of 5/8 half oval on there. You don't want that to end at a hard turn. But give it a nice clean slope to bend that brass half oval down onto and terminate it as you like at the hull. And that'll be sort of its protection for bringing the boat up on the beach, banging it against a rock or anything like that. Oh, one more thing. You will end up putting a chamfer on there, about a quarter inch to 3/8. So we got 7/8 by 1.25 inches and a chamfer on the side just with a regular router bit. Best way to fasten this down, since you have this rocker, this camber here, you can get a friend to help you out, have somebody hold it down or hold either end. You can also leave a lot of extra material after the stern, drill a hole in it and tie a line down even to the molds or to the floor, kind of hold it down, and then from up forward, curve it down. Same idea as the inner keel piece. I've got it all dry fit, and when I'm ready, I will glue this down, and then I've driven my screws down quite a ways so that I can put bungs in there. That will allow for, if I potentially have a hole in my half oval that happens to coincide with where one of my screws is, there'll be some material in there I can still drive a screw in. I've drilled basically a clearance hole in my hole, so did a dry fit and drilled it, but then also drilled the shank width so that my screw will slide right in there, and that will help that screw really suck the keel piece down. Getting the end of this to really come down exactly where you want it can be a little bit of a challenge. So again, if you can have extra material you can use to leverage it down. I also used a longer piece of wood and my knee and literally just held it down while I drilled that screw in and drove it in. Worked like a charm. With the keel, when we last left off, we had just dry fit it, drilled some screws in there, very deeply countersunk. I used some thickened epoxy with silica, and I basically started with a fastener up in here, and then brought the keel down, fastened, and then moved up forward, fastening it all down, and then went ahead and put some bungs in there. When you are putting in bungs, you want to make sure that the grain's running in line with the grain of your piece of wood, and that's just so when things swell and move, they're all doing it together. Plus it looks better. So the next step on here is cutting this stern end flush. I just used a piece of wood or a ruler, set it on the transom, traced the line on either side, connected that line. I used a pull saw from above, sort of loosely holding that blade against the transom, and went ahead and cut that off. You need a skeg on here. I've made a pattern. This is just 1/8 inch Luan. We get it sometimes with shipments of things. Made this roughly 4 feet long. Just sort of clamped it to the side, traced that curve, and cut it out. So Did a little bit of fitting with this, kind of messing around, getting it as close as I could. It's much easier to do this kind of fitting with a small piece of scrap than it is with your final piece of lumber. It's a little bit less stressful. So here's my skeg, future skeg. I cut it with that pattern. It's a nice clean fit. And you'll see that this is 1 inch thick, and those chamfers just run right up to that skeg. And also I've cut the same line in line with the transom. This I did off the, just had that set on there, struck the line, and then did it on the bandsaw. Got some pen lines on here. This ultimately is going to fare down and feather out to be in line with the keel. There'll be that 5/8 half oval that runs from up forward, and it'll lay on here. It'll bend around the skeg here and come up maybe a little bit onto the transom. Depends on what you prefer. Because we're laying that on there, you want to give this a nice generous curve. The plan for fastening this down, I'm going to roughly cut more material off of that forward end, but not totally down to a feathered edge. I'll basically weigh that down when I'm gluing it up and then do my final line on the boat. There's no hard and fast rule about it. It's just kind of making it look like a nice fair line. If you want it to be straighter, you can make it straighter. This is going to have like a little bit of a curve still, and probably be straight in the final 18 to 24 inches. I'll keep it flat.